Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the MJ Innocent podcast. I'm your host, Moonwalker Tanya. On this channel, Michael is smooth, but not a criminal. Alright, so if you are new to the channel, welcome. If you love Michael Jackson content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to check out my other channel, Tanya Files. But if you are a MJ hater, then beat it to Roxanne's channel where the other delusional MJ haters are, where you belong, because I don't have the time or patience to deal with you. Alright, because on this channel, we only care about the truth. Alright, so with that being said, in today's episode, we are going to talk about Corey Feldman. He is a childhood actor who was friends with Michael, and unfortunately Corey is a real survivor of child sexual abuse, not by Michael. I have to put that out there. And I thought Corey was a decent person, because he was an actor and he also wanted to be a musician, and he even admitted in an interview that when he played one of his songs for Michael, he said it could be a number one. And he was willing to play it for Tommy Mottola, the devil, and and make it a number one. Corey appreciated Michael's offer, but turned it down because he said, if I want to make it in the music industry, I have to earn it. It's a shame Wade Robson didn't think that way. He used his connections to Michael whenever he could, especially when no one wanted to work with him after he destroyed his career in the early 2000s. So that's why I had more respect for Corey Feldman. Now, the problem is Corey has gone back and forth when it comes to whether he supports Michael or not. So he defended Michael in '93, and he actually tried to give the authorities the names of the real predators in Hollywood, but the authorities were only interested in going after Michael. And that's what's really sick, because instead of wasting all that time investigating Michael, harder than any serial killer on record, by the way, they could have gone after the real predators in Hollywood, and they would have been caught a lot sooner than they were. And there probably are still some that haven't been caught yet. But here's the problem, though. Thanks to the Me Too movement and all these accusations that have been coming out over the past 5 or 10 years, it's basically making everyone turn against everyone in Hollywood. And here's the situation. Yes, the Me Too movement is a powerful movement for victims, but it is also inspiring false allegations. If you hear any water in the background, that's my portable dishwasher. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's why I always say that every case is different, and, don't judge until you research it. Because, for example, I've done a little research about the O.J. Simpson case. I've looked into a few cases where it's not regarding a celebrity. I looked into, I've also looked into the Bill Cosby case a little bit and the Danny Masterson case, but I haven't really done enough research on those in order to really comment. So that's why I always say that you should go into every case and look at the facts instead of propaganda, because obviously, the media and the tabloids, they're always desperate to spread propaganda about Michael. Now, even though Corey defended Michael in '93, he also defended him in '03, but then during the '05 trial, Corey basically flipped the story and said that he wanted to testify for the prosecution. Tom Sneddon did not call him as a witness, which is surprising since he was so desperate, because he was desperate enough to convict Michael that he falsified evidence during the trial. And then when Michael was acquitted, Corey was like, okay, he's innocent. Then when the mockumentary came out in 2019, he said, it's not true, Michael's innocent. Then he received backlash from the media and the haters. Then he changed his opinion to, even though Michael didn't abuse me, I can no longer defend him. And then he had the nerve to say, I'm not judging him and I'm not defending him. Oh, trust me, Corey, you were judging him. And I don't want to be too hard on Corey just because, you know, like I said, he's a real survivor and he's been trying to receive justice from his predator and stuff like that, which I understand. And I've noticed in his interviews, like, his frustration and all this other stuff, but I think he is being biased to what happened to him to automatically believe Wade and James. You know, and he said that, you know, that we should listen to all victims. Actually, I think what we need to say is that we should listen to the accusers and then find out what the facts are to prove whether if it's true or not. Back in 2013, when I started my research, I didn't say innocent or guilty. I was in the middle. But then as I kept listening to both sides, it was moving to innocent. And like I said in my previous episode, you know, there has to be a reason for me to turn against Michael, and there isn't. Only 5 accusers out of hundreds of thousands of kids, you know, and nothing but civil suits, which is something that real victims would not go after. And yeah, some of those stupid haters will say, well, Michael isn't here, so what are they supposed to go after? Name one accuser who went after justice instead of money when Michael was alive. We'll wait. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so with that being said, let's check out some interviews that Corey Feldman did. Now, the first one was when he defended Michael, and then the second one I'm going to show parts of it because it's a very long interview that Corey did with Martin Bashir, which should be a red flag on its own. I won't be able to play too much of it, obviously, because I don't know if it's copyrighted or not, so I'll just show a couple of things, and then I will put the link to the Martin Bashir interview with Corey Feldman in the description box. And then at the end, I will show a video of what he said after the mockumentary premiered in 2019.
You believe that children are being abused by pedophiles in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
So why are you sitting down talking to me? Why aren't you sitting down with the police right now?
I
Wow.
told the police. In fact, if anybody wants to go back to 1993 when I was interviewed by the Santa Barbara Police Department, I sat there and I gave them the names. They're on record. They have all of this information, but they were scanning Michael Jackson. All they cared about was trying to find something on Michael Jackson.
You said, by the way, did not abuse you.
Who Michael was innocent, and that was what the interview was about with the police in 1993. I told them he is not that guy, and they said, well, maybe you just don't understand your friend. And I said, no, I know the difference between pedophiles and somebody who's not a pedophile because I've been molested. Here's the names. Go investigate. And let me push this forward. There are thousands of people in Hollywood who have this same information. Why is it all on me? Why is it if I don't release the names in the next 2 months, 6 months, or a year, I'm the bad guy? I'm the victim here.
Corey Feldman reveals why he says he can no longer stand by Michael Jackson.
You don't understand the toll that it takes having to be friends with somebody like Michael Jackson. Because you spend your whole life defending this friend. No, he's not gay. No, he's not a weirdo.
Now, when was this?
This was backstage at the Bad Tour.
Although Feldman was defending Jackson in public, he says his private thoughts in recent years have started to trouble him. And now, as Michael Jackson's trial begins, Corey Feldman says he's decided he can remain silent no longer.
I started looking at each piece of information.
Propaganda.
And with that came this sickening realization that there have been many occurrences in my life and in my relationship to Michael that have created a question of doubt.
Feldman says he and Jackson remained in touch until 2001, when they fell out for good. They met backstage before Michael Jackson's 30-year anniversary concert in New York.
And what happened over the next 20 minutes changed my perspective forever.
No, it didn't.
Michael had some paranoid delusion that I had some ill-fated intentions to write some sort of book about him.
But he wrote a song
They
instead.
accused you of that.
Right. Which was categorically untrue. And what happened next was basically the way I perceived it, is that he threatened my life.
Oh my gosh.
The next day, Jackson shunned him. Feldman later released a song expressing his anger for being dumped by his famous friend. When he learned the details of the current case and found out that a key piece of evidence is alleged to be a pornographic magazine with 2 sets of fingerprints on it, Michael Jackson's and the young boy he's accused of molesting, Feldman says he knew he had to reveal his own story.
Do you remember earlier in the video when I said that Tom Sneddon falsified evidence? That was the key evidence in question. Now, Michael's adult heterosexual pornography collection was taken during the raids, and Tom Sneddon handed one of the issues to Gavin Arvizo. And he said, "Is that the issue in question that Michael used to seduce you?" And Gavin said yes. The magazine was tested for fingerprints. Both Gavin and Michael's fingerprints were on that magazine. But there are a couple of problems with that. The only reason Gavin's fingerprints were on that magazine was because when Tom Sneddon handed him that magazine, Gavin was not wearing gloves. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, Tanya, how do you know that's the only way to prove that? Well, that issue in question that Gavin said was the one that Michael used with him, that wasn't published until 6 months after the Arvizo family left the ranch. Wow, Tom Sneddon, you're so lazy you can't even check when the magazine was published. But like I said, he was desperate.
As I said, I have a tape of the two of us hanging out, and when you listen to it, you can hear the innocence in the conversation. But again, I don't want to be perceived as I'm here to defend Michael, because I can no longer do that. I cannot, in good consciousness, defend anyone who's being accused of such horrendous crimes. But at the same time, I'm also not here to judge him.
Yes, you are.
Because again, he didn't do those things to me, and that was not my experience. So, therefore, my place is not to be the judge and is not to be the accuser and not to be the defender. My job in this is to focus on what's most important, which is helping to reform the statutes of limitations in every state. Because if we can reform the statutes of limitations, we can prevent these things from ever getting to this point. The fact is, I started reporting my molestations to the police in 1993 while they were investigating Jackson for the first time. I've never had a shot at justice. I've never had a chance to bring my predators to the court system. I've never had that opportunity. I'm hoping after decades-long battle that through the process of making my own documentary, which I am making right now, and I'm hoping to find a distributor for, we can get my story heard, we can help abolish the statutes of limitations, and I can finally get justice for my own case. So I think it's extremely important that we all take a pause and listen to all victims right now. And I certainly want to apologize if anybody took anything that I said out of context in those tweets, because it certainly wasn't meant in any way to question the validity of the victims.
We should listen to all accusers. But just because you're an accuser does not mean that you're a victim. And, like I said, I did my research before I wasted almost 5 hours of my life watching the 2 mockumentaries. They were a complete waste of time, so don't watch them. Trust me. It's just BS. So, to Corey, I really hope you receive justice someday, but I think hoping to draw attention to yourself by turning against Michael is not the way to go. But I was abused myself, and I have a lot of friends in the MJ community who are also real survivors, and we want justice for you. And I really hope one day you can get it, because unlike the accusers who accused Michael, I see it like in your eyes, and also I can hear it in your voice that you want justice. You don't want money. You want your predators locked up and tortured, But none of the accusers had that kind of fire in them. All they wanted was money, both now and when Michael was alive. And in my opinion, if you're going to go after money when you're accusing someone of one of the most heinous crimes imaginable, then that proves that you do not give a dang about your child. And I hope people like that do not become parents. So what I will say is I don't know if Corey will try to testify for the prosecution when Wade and James go to trial. But for the defense, I hope Brandy and Taj Jackson, and even Brandy's brother Ziggy Jackson, I hope they testify for the defense. And I'm going to go even further. Gavin Arvizo and Jordan Chandler, I really hope you come forward and testify for the defense. Now, if Jordan testifies, obviously, we won't know about what he said because of the confidentiality agreement that was signed back in '94. He can still testify in court, but we just won't know, what he said. But I think Jordan needs to come forward and tell the truth so that all of this can be over. I did not watch Corey's documentary just because he aired it after he turned against Michael, and Dr. Oz said that Corey was revealing really big names in Hollywood in it, and he warned Corey that a lot of people were going to be mad at him, so I was afraid Michael was going to be mentioned. And plus you had to buy a ticket in order to watch it on pay-per-view or on some kind of website. But I did hear from people that Michael was not mentioned in the documentary, so that's a good thing at least. So to Corey, I still hope the best for you, but please don't be biased. Take a look at all the lies that Wade and James have been caught in, like the previous accusers before them. That's all I can ask for. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the comments.